All right, take a look at this argument. It's an interesting one. Premise number one, if dogs are capable of feeling pain, then they will try to avoid events that cause humans pain, like being struck. Premise number two, dogs do try to avoid events that cause humans pain, like being struck. Therefore, dogs are capable of feeling pain. Now, what I'd ask you to do initially is just kind of look really carefully at those premises, that conclusion, and ask yourself this: does this argument, does it seem to be valid? In other words, if you assume those premise statements to be true statements, is there any way the conclusion statement could be false? Or does it seem like the conclusion statement would be true if the premises are true? Well, you're going to test your initial hit on this argument by constructing a truth table to test this argument for validity. And I'm going to explain to you the steps you need to follow in order to successfully create your truth table. And I would recommend writing these steps down because they will help you with your thought primer homework. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to identify the simple statements that this argument is made up of. And you're going to assign each of those simple statements a letter to represent that statement. And then what you're going to do is you're going to symbolize this argument on a single line using your letters and operators. And you're going to make sure that you separate the premises from one another with a single slash. And you separate the conclusion from the final premise with a double slash. And then you're going to use your pal, L equals 2 to the n, to figure out how many lines this truth table needs. And then you're going to keep using L equals 2 to the n to figure out how to arrange the truth values under each of your simple statements. And then what you're going to do, after you've got the truth values for all of your simple statements, you're going to deduce the truth values of any operators that you have. And then what we're going to do is you're going to zero in on those lines where the conclusion is false. And you're going to look on those two lines to see if on any of them all of the premises are true. And if on all the lines with a false conclusion there's at least one false premise, that proves the argument is valid. Okay? But if on any line, it only takes one, if on any line with a false premise all the premises are true, that proves the argument invalid. Okay, so I want you to pause your videos. It's a good opportunity for you to check in with yourself to see how prepared you are to do your homework. All right, so go ahead and pause your video, follow these steps, and when you're ready to check your work, go ahead and restart your video. All right, let's see what you came up with here. Okay, so I chose P to represent the statement dogs are capable of feeling pain, and A to represent the statement dogs try to avoid events that cause humans pain, like being struck. So you may have different letters in your symbolized argument. You just want to make sure that you're sort of cross-referencing your letters with mine. Okay, so we symbolize this argument like this. Our first premise is a conditional statement, P horseshoe A, and our second premise is A, and our conclusion is P. When we construct our truth table, it looks something like this. We've got 4 lines, and we can see here that on lines 3 and 4, the conclusion is false. So those are the lines that we're concerned about. Lines 3 and 4 are our mission critical lines, and we can see right there, on line 3, all of the premise statements are true and the conclusion is false. So that proves this argument is an invalid one, right? It's invalid line 3. And what's interesting about this is this argument trips up a lot of people. A lot of folks look at this argument at the beginning of this lecture and they think, this argument seems valid. It seems like the conclusion follows from these premises. But we can see here that that's not always the case. On line 3, it shows no, the conclusion doesn't necessarily follow from these premises, so the argument's invalid. And what I think trips us up about this argument is we believe that all of the statements are true. But just because all of the statements are true that comprise this argument doesn't mean it's a good argument.